If every spring you buy a fresh stack of seed packets, a few dollars here, a few dollars there, and think nothing of it, I want you to stop this year and hear something, because you are paying over and over for a thing your own garden is trying to hand you for free. Right now, this very fall, the best plants in your garden are making seed, hundreds and hundreds of seeds, next year's whole garden and the year after, and you can save it and plant it and never buy that plant again. Folks did exactly this for 10,000 years, saved the seed from the best of the harvest to plant the next. That is how we got every vegetable we have. And then, within living memory, somebody figured out how to sell you a seed you cannot save, so you would have to come back and buy again every single spring, forever. Today, I am going to teach you how to save your own seed from your best plants, the old way, so that you need never buy those seeds again. Stay with me. This is how a garden becomes truly your own. My name is Jacob. I am Amish. I have gardened the same ground in Lancaster County for more than 30 years. And there are beans in my garden this year, grown from seed that has been saved and replanted in my family for longer than I have been alive. Seed my grandfather saved, that has never once been bought in a store. And those beans are perfectly suited to my soil and my weather, because they have been grown here and selected here season after season until they belong to this place. That is what saving your own seed gives you, not just free seed, but your own seed, your own strain, growing better and better for your own garden every year. Today, I am going to teach you the one rule you must know before you save a single seed, which plants are easy to start with, exactly how to save the seed from each, how to dry it and store it so it keeps, and how it all went from something every family did to something you were taught you must buy. But before any of that, I have to tell you the one thing that determines whether your saved seed will grow into the plant you loved or into a disappointment, because if you get this one thing wrong, nothing else matters. Stay with me. Here is the one rule, the thing you must understand before you save any seed at all, so write it on your heart. You must save seed only from what are called open-pollinated plants, which is what the word heirloom means, and never from hybrids. Let me tell you the difference plainly, because it is the whole game. An open-pollinated or heirloom variety is one that breeds true, meaning if you save its seed and plant it, you get the same plant back, the same tomato, the same bean, just like the parent, year after year. A hybrid, on the other hand, often marked on the packet with the letters F1, is a deliberate cross of two different parent plants. And here is the trouble. If you save the seed from a hybrid and plant it, it will not come back true. It scrambles. You will get a wild mix of the grandparents, unpredictable, often weak, often worthless. So the very first thing, before you save a single seed, is to know which you have. And it is easy. You look at the seed packet or the plant tag. If it says heirloom or open-pollinated or the letters OP, you are free to save it and it will come true. If it says hybrid or F1, do not bother saving it. It will not come back right. That one word on the label is the whole decision. Get that right, and everything else is simple. Now, which plants should you start with? Because some are wonderfully easy and some are tricky, and I want you to begin where you cannot fail. The easiest of all, the ones to start with your very first year, are what we call the self-pollinating crops, the ones whose flowers pollinate themselves before they even open, so they hardly ever cross with a neighboring plant, and they come back true with almost no fuss. There are 5 to remember, and they are the friendly ones: tomatoes, beans, peas, peppers, and lettuce. Start with these. Beans and peas are the very simplest thing in all of gardening to save, so if you do nothing else, do beans. The harder crops, the ones to save for later, once you have a season or two behind you, are the ones that cross-pollinate freely on the wind or by the bees, and so will not stay pure unless you keep the varieties well apart, and those are corn, squash, pumpkins, cucumbers, melons, and the whole cabbage family. And a few, like carrots and beets, are what we call biennial, meaning they do not even make their seed until their second year, so they are for the experienced hand. But you this year start with the easy 5, and above all, with beans. Let me give you the method for each of the easy ones, and you will see how plain it is. For beans and peas, which are the simplest, you do almost nothing at all. You simply leave some of the best pods right on the plant and stop picking them, and let them stay there until they are completely dry and brown and brittle, until you can hear the seeds rattle inside. Then you pick those dry pods, shell them out, let the beans dry a while longer indoors, and you are done. You have next year's beans in your hand. For lettuce, you let one of your best plants go past eating. Let it grow tall and bolt and flower, and then it makes little fluffy seed heads, and you gather the seed from those. For peppers, easiest of the fruits, you simply let a pepper stay on the plant until it is fully ripe, all the way to red, and even starting to wrinkle. Then you cut it open, scrape out the seeds, and spread them to dry. The tomato is the one that takes a special little step, and I want to teach it to you properly because it is worth knowing. A tomato seed is wrapped in a slippery gel, and that gel actually contains something that stops the seed from sprouting. So you cannot just scrape a tomato seed out and dry it and expect the best of it. You must first remove that gel, and the old way to do that is to ferment it. It sounds fancy, but it is nothing. You scoop the seeds and their gel out of a good ripe tomato into a jar, add a splash of water, and set the jar on the counter for about 3 days, stirring it once a day. It will get a bit murky and may grow a little white film on top, and that is exactly right. That is the fermentation eating away the gel coating, and it does one more fine thing besides. It kills off certain seed-borne diseases, so your seed comes clean and healthy. After about 3 days, when the gel is gone and the good seeds have sunk to the bottom, you pour off the mess. Rinse the seeds clean in a strainer and spread them out to dry. That is all. A little more trouble than a bean, but any gardener can do it. Now, I want to take a moment, because this is the part that matters. Because I want you to understand what was taken from you, and how recently. For nearly the whole history of the human race, 10,000 years of farming and gardening, every family saved its own seed. It was simply how it was done. You kept back the seed from your best plants, you planted it the next year, you shared it with your neighbor and traded for his, and no one ever paid a company for seed, because there were no seed companies. There was just the seed, passed hand to hand, generation to generation, free as the rain. And here is the thing, that seed got better every year, because each family saved from their finest and most vigorous plants, so their seed slowly adapted to their own soil, their own weather, until they had strains perfectly suited to their own place. Now think about what a hard thing that free, self-renewing seed is to build a business on. If a plant makes its own seed that comes back true, you sell it once and never again. So the seed companies did something clever. They gave us the hybrid, that cross that will not breed true, so that the wonderful ancient free cycle was broken. And now the seed you save gives you nothing, and you must come back and buy fresh seed every single spring, forever. And in some cases, they have gone further still, patenting seed so that it is against the law to save it at all. Do you see the shape of it? They did not invent the hybrid only to make a better plant, though some are fine plants. They invented it to sell you a seed you cannot save, so that a thing your garden gave your ancestors free for 10,000 years, you would now rent from them every year until you die. There is no money in a seed that makes more of itself. There is a fortune in a seed that makes you come back. That is the whole story. And now you can step right out of it by saving the open-pollinated kind, the way we always did. So let me tell you how to dry and store your seed so it keeps, for this is where good seed is often lost. The great enemy of stored seed is moisture, so the seed must be bone dry before you put it away. Dry enough that a bean or a pea snaps cleanly instead of bending, and the seed of the wet crops spread out and dried until it is hard and crisp. Never dry seed in the oven or hot sun, which can kill it. Just spread it on a plate or a screen in a warm, airy room out of direct sun for a week or two. Once it is truly dry, you store it cool, dark, and dry in a paper envelope or a glass jar, and this is important. You label every one of them with the variety and the year. For I promise you that come spring you will not remember which unmarked seeds are which. A cool, dry cupboard is good, and for the long haul the seed keeps even longer in the refrigerator. Stored well, most of your seed will keep and grow for years. Beans and tomatoes and many others staying good for 4, 5, even more years. And each spring before you plant, if you are unsure of some older seed, you do the old test. You lay 10 seeds in a damp paper towel, keep it warm a week, and see how many sprout, and that tells you if the seed is still good. Let me tell you about those beans of my grandfather's, because they will show you what all this is really for. They are a plain pole bean, nothing fancy to look at, but they are ours. My grandfather grew them and saved the best each year, and his father before him, and by the time they came to my hands, they had been grown on this same ground for the better part of 100 years. And in all that time, every season, the family kept seed only from the strongest, earliest, best-bearing plants, so that little by little, year by year, those beans shaped themselves to this exact piece of Pennsylvania, to our soil and our rains and our length of summer. Until now they grow here better than any bean I could buy in any store, because no store bean has ever been asked to grow here for 100 years. You cannot buy that. There is no packet on any rack that holds 100 years of a family choosing the best of its own harvest for its own ground. That is what a saved seed becomes if you keep it long enough, not just free seed, but a living heirloom, a piece of your family and your land, handed forward in a form you can hold in your palm and plant in the spring. When I put those beans in the ground, I am planting my grandfather's care, and my father's, and one day my grandchildren will plant mine. That is worth a great deal more than the few dollars it saves. Now I have to be honest with you about the limits, so you do not stumble. First, and I will say it again, because it is everything, save only from open-pollinated or heirloom plants, never from a hybrid, for the hybrid seed will not come true. Second, the crops that cross-pollinate, the squash and corn and cucumbers and cabbage kin, will not stay pure if you grow more than one variety of them near each other. So for those you must either grow only one variety or keep them well apart or leave them for later, which is why I sent you to the easy 5 first. Third, some crops like carrots and beets take 2 years to make seed, so those are for down the road. Fourth, disease can travel on seed, so always save from your healthy plants, never from a sick one, and remember that tomato fermentation helps clean the seed. And fifth, if a seed packet says it is patented or protected, saving it may not be allowed, though for the plain old heirlooms you will use, this is no trouble at all. None of these should stop you. They are just the map, and the road for a beginner is wide and easy. It is called beans and tomatoes. And do not let the rules make it sound harder than it is, for at bottom this is one of the simplest and most natural things in all of gardening. A plant wants to make seed. That is the whole point of a plant, to make more of itself. All you are really doing is stepping in at the right moment, choosing the best of what it offers, and keeping it safe and dry until spring. Your ancestors did this without a single book or a word of instruction, because it was as ordinary to them as saving a little bread back for tomorrow. You are not learning some difficult new science. You are remembering something your own people knew in their bones for 100 generations, and that was only forgotten in the last 2 or 3. Pick a bean, let it dry, keep it, plant it next year. That is the whole of it, and everything else I have told you is just the fine points around that simple, ancient act. So here is what I want you to do. This fall, walk out to your garden and pick your best, healthiest, best-tasting plants, and let some of their fruit or pods go all the way to full. Ripe and dry. Save your beans by letting the pods dry brown on the plant, then shelling them. Save a tomato or 2 by scooping the seeds, fermenting them 3 days in a jar of water, rinsing and drying. Dry it all until it is hard. Store it cool and dark and dry in labeled jars or envelopes, and next spring, plant your own seed, saved from your own best plants, for free. Do that, and you have taken back something that was your family's birthright for 10,000 years. Now tell me in the comments below, tell me, is there a seed in your family, a bean, a tomato, a flower that came down from a grandparent or a great-grandparent that someone saved and kept going, because those seeds are living treasures, and I would dearly love to hear their stories. And if there is not, tell me which plant you are going to start saving this year, so that one day it can become that seed for your own grandchildren. Tell me your county too, and what grows best in your ground. Next time, I am going to show you how to keep that harvest through the whole winter without a freezer, the way we do, in a root cellar and a few crocks, so that the food you grew feeds your family clear until spring. Until then, save the seed, keep the best, and remember the people who fed themselves from their own saved seed in this country with their own 2 hands, knew things we are only just starting to remember.